So this story kicks off in 2005 with Christina Constance and Kimberly Domain. They went to the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana, and they went there to talk about Christina's husband. What the heck could they possibly be talking about with Christina's husband? Ain't no way Christina's husband did something. Huh. Joke's on you. Christina and her husband, some nasty individuals. Detective Overton, he comes over, he sees her and Kimberly face, and he like, dang, there's something wrong with them. Let me go over there and see what's wrong with them. Because they look all sad and whatnot. He goes over there. Christina went on to tell the detective that her husband had forced her to have sex with his 16-year-old nephew. I know. You already like, what kind of stuff is that? Oh, but the plot thickens, okay? Detective Overton just thinking, oh, okay, so this is just a simple case of, juvenile sex case. Okay, nothing simple about it, because ew is ew. Find somebody your own age. But she goes on to tell him, oh no, my husband forced me to have oral sex on my juvenile son. The juvenile that we're speaking of is 7 years old. What the heck is happening is what I'm thinking. Before she even finished the rest of her sentence, Detective Overton's like, okay, whoa. Stop right there. He read her Miranda rights. We all know the Miranda rights. We all watch Law and Order. This case has jumped from a juvenile to now you looking at some charges. Now, sis, you and your nasty husband. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to when all of this started, because this caught me off guard. So Christina's friend, Kimberly Domain, she tells the Detective Overton, that she found a note inside her son's pocket. Well, let me not say pocket, because I'm not 100% sure where she found the note, but she found the note nonetheless. But it's what's in the note that catches your attention. She found a note that basically was saying that this guy named David Constance, who they call Clutch for short, he gave Miss Kimberly's son, who's a teenager, permission to have intercourse with his wife. He told him that she will be willing to do it. So he asked her, when will you be ready to do these things? Because Clutch told me you down. You DTF. Kimberly Constance found this inside her son's pocket, wherever she found it, under his bed, in his diary, I don't know. She immediately went right to Christina and was asking Christina, like, WTF, what the heck is going on? Why are you trying to get with my son? So then that's when she went on to tell her about, oh, that's Clutch. He's been making me do that. He's been making me sleep with his nephew. And he's been making me perform orals on our son. Kimberly had to tell her, girl, we need to tell somebody about this. This ain't right, which is how they ended up in Detective Overton's office. Before she could even finish the rest of her story, the detective went and called some of his friends, not friends, but you know what I mean, like the people he worked with, and was like, hey, I got this lady down here. This is what she's saying. She's saying that her husband, David Constance, he got her doing all this stuff, and that they've been doing this pretty much the whole duration of their marriage. And their marriage, I think it's been like, and they was married for like 20 years. Within that 20 years, the whole time they've been together, they have been having relations with other kids. What really caught me off guard is that he started off doing that to her. Like, he met her when she was only 9 years old. He was dating her older sister, and he was like 18. When he'll go to the sister house, aka their house, he would go into the room with her and mess with her, and had been messing with her all the way up till she was about 14, 15. Her being like 14, 15, he ran away with her. So he got charged with kidnapping Christina and with rape of Christina. But for whatever reason under the sun, her parents dropped the charges. And I don't know if they wanted Christina to make the decisions on her own. I don't know. I really don't know what could have possibly went through your parents' head to drop the charges on somebody who kidnapped their child. But they dropped the charges. So yeah, her parents pretty much, I don't want to say gave up on her, but they just let her make her own decisions. And her decision was to continue to be with David Constance. This is definitely a case of a victim making people her victim, because David was then charged with child kidnapping, and the justice system fails us once again. They ended up only charging David with one count of contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, and then he pled nolo contendory, which means he accepted the convictions of what he did, of as if like he was guilty, but he didn't admit to being guilty, if that makes sense. Like, he accepted whatever the deal was as if he was guilty without admitting, I'm guilty, I did that. By pleading this, he avoided plea used against him any other time in this case. Like, he couldn't be found guilty for that case. But it didn't matter anyway because her parents dropped the case. They dropped it and she went on to marry David, and he groomed her into bringing more kids into their home because they trusted David. They trusted David and thought, oh, he's such a good guy, even though he looked creepy. Oh, he's so cool. He was offering to help take care of their kids, buying them food. And these people were like poor, like no money, barely can live, don't know where their next meal is coming from. And David took advantage of it. 100,000% he took advantage of it. So one of the people that David and Constance had had hurt their victim. His name is TB. I'm gonna say TB. That's his initials, TB. And the only reason why I know is because I remember learning about tuberculosis. In my head, stands for tuberculosis. His dad was good friends with David and let him go over there to their house. They trusted him to take care of their son. Because of course you're not gonna think, oh, let my kid go over there to somebody's house who's going to hurt him. I don't believe any parent goes thinking, let me let my child go over there. But he did. So not only he stayed the night, he went over there and David was like, hey, you want to sleep with my wife? TB, he's like a teenager and he's like, no, I'm good. He's scared. He doesn't want to. And David kept just pushing it on him. Come on, man. You scared? You don't want to sleep with that? You see how good that is? Come on, man. So TB ran to the restroom, tried to look for a window to climb out of. Couldn't find no window. Poor baby. TB goes back inside the room, and when he goes back inside the room, Christina is laying on the bed naked. And David tells him, go ahead. Well, one thing leads to another. Something happens. Come to find out, Christina and David had hooked up with about 13 kids. Well, at least 13 kids they can find for the sheriffs to talk to. Christina remembers it being from the duration of their marriage. So with that being 20 years, 20 or more kids, pretty much. 20 or more kids. These kids aged from 7 to 17, and then some of them were adults by now. So it's no telling who else it could have been, where they are. It's no telling. So let's do the math real quick. They're saying 13 victims were juvenile, and David and Christina finally were caught. But Christina counted over 20 victims, and each one she has some form of an inappropriate relationship with them. She says every single thing that she did that was inappropriate was all because David was telling her to do so. These victims was interviewed thoroughly, one by one, on different scales, because again, these age ranges are from 9 to 17. So each one of these kids, not each one of these kids, but each one of these age ranges understands things differently, if that makes sense. They have to understand if they can tell between what's a lie and what's the truth. These were some of the things that the kids were asked. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I heard this story on a podcast from the actual detective who went through this case. And the things that I heard on that podcast, these people deserve to be underneath the prison. And I know you hear that all the time with different people saying that, like, oh, they need to be underneath the prison. No, for real. So I'm not going to go into too much detail over the interview or what was said, but the detective I'm speaking of Woody Overton, he talks about this on his podcast. And one of the questions that they asked Christina's son was, so do you know why you're here? That sweet baby, he understood why he was there. He says, because of what David did to me, or rather what Clutch did to me. Because remember, Clutch is his nickname. She said, okay, what did Clutch do to you? He said that he would touch him, make him touch his areas, and he would touch Clutch areas. And that baby understood all of that. Now, Christina's son, he is smart as can be. And thankfully, he was taken out of that predicament that he was in. And he lives with his aunt, Christina's older sister. Well, I'm assuming it's her older sister, since that's the only one we know about. He lives with the aunt. So I'm not going to go into detail of the rest of his story of what he told the detective. You can look it up. But while he was talking, he went on to say that they asked him, so are you done? Is there anything else that happened? You know, you could tell us. He broke down crying. He tells the interviewer, Clutch would tell me to go outside during dinner time and pick up his cigarette butts. So by the time he was done picking up all of those cigarette butts, dinner was over. So Christina's son was going to bed hungry. When he moved in with Christina's sister, he was still stealing food and hiding it underneath his bed because he was scared and not sure when he was going to have his next meal. So Clutch wasn't just also a pedophile. Clutch was an all-around piece of crap all the way around. There are so many more victims than I can even name, all within this time frame. Like I said, 13 different juveniles, 20 total or more, and 13 juvenile for sure that were interviewed, and each one had the same story of being touched by Constance and David. If they weren't touched, then it was oral. If it wasn't oral, then it was penetration. It was always something. So they spent 25 years doing this. David was taken in by Detective Overton, and when he was taken in, he immediately, "Oh, that's not true. I didn't do that. My wife is lying. We ain't been together for some months. She just pulling some stuff out of her butt. She's lying." Oh no, she was not. Because not only did she tell on herself, she told on him, and she admitted to what she did wrong. Hate to say it. Homegirl was slow. She didn't have it all. You could tell she did not have a good education. And David, he wasn't too far off from her either, but David for sure took advantage of the fact that she was a little slower than he was, because she was grown and David was just a piece of crap. But our good old boy, my boy, Detective Overton, he was asked by the assistant district attorney to leave out some of the details during the trial. That make sure that you leave out the aggravated, all of those type of things, you know, the incest, anything like that, leave it out. Detective Overton was like, "That's BS. I'm not leaving that out. These kids deserve more. These kids deserve better. They deserve for their story to be heard. They deserve for them to have justice for what he did. And then even justice for the ones who they couldn't even find, because these people had moved. They had moved so many times they couldn't even find them." All of this was happening within the basis of 25 years. They couldn't find everyone. So when Detective Overton took the stand, he told the truth, nothing but the truth. He told everything. He gave them all the horrible details exactly the same way the kids gave it to him. All the gory details, the bodily functions, the liquids, all of it, you name it, he told it in detail to these people. Jurors was crying. They were getting mad. Their faces was turning red. One of them got so mad they stood up and was like, "How the hell will you let this happen? How the hell we let this happen for so long?" So Detective Owens, he slowly turns over to the assistant attorney and says, "I don't know. How did we let this happen for so long?" So you know she was hot, red hot. So the assistant district attorney at the time wanted him to leave out all the gory details. Leave all of that out. Leave out all the gory details. Don't tell them about the incest. Don't tell them about all that. David told it all. So it took the jury 30 minutes to deliberate. And one of the guard that was standing by the door, they told the Detective Overton that, no, really, it didn't take them that long. They knew he was guilty already. They just need to sit around a little bit longer because the evidence was all there. Now, he did not get the death penalty. So he got life without parole, 4 life sentences. And Christina got 20-year plea, both still doing time. David is for sure going to die in prison. Okay, y'all, so I made some delicious shrimp tacos, some Baja sauce homemade, and some guac. Look, y'all, you need to be careful who you bring your kids around. Moral of the story, don't trust nobody.